This podcast is brought to you by House Call Pro, software that tens of thousands of home service professionals use daily in over a dozen industries, including HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. The app is easy to use and helps you and your employees deliver a 5-star experience to your customers every time. To learn more, go to housecallpro.com/podcast. In today's episode, we have Brandon Stowe of Cracker Jack Appliance Repair. Brandon shares how he got into the trades, his decision to go out on his own after having a stable job, his desire to get a business education, and how he buys and sells businesses.
Today we have Brandon Stowe from Cracker Jack Home Repair, and he has graciously joined us to share about his journey, what he's learned, how he started his business. So why don't we just start there, Brandon? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the industry, how did it all start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got in the industry when I was young, as most pros probably have. I grew up inside the mechanical trades. My grandfather, he owned a refrigeration company in South Carolina, little town called Anderson. And at the age of 12, I was going out, I was helping them wash off condensers, clean ice machines, just basic small tasks. And he would give me $20 at the end of the day. So it really was, as a 12-year-old, it's way better than mowing lawns. And so I kind of got addicted. I started, asking him, how can I learn this trade? And he would give me motors. He'd say, here, take these motors apart. We got to scrap the copper windings out of them. And that's back when, you could scrap copper and make money from it. And so I'd take the motors apart, and I was always just so encaptured by the fact that these motors, had all these windings and all these different things. And so, I had just gotten a computer in my room. I started, I had Google, the power of Google, and I started looking it up, how do motors work? How do stators work? How do magnets work? And I got into the mechanical industry, at 12 years old. By 16, I was doing it by myself. So I was taking care of over 100 convenience stores. I was fixing their walk-in coolers. I was fixing the ice machines. I was fixing the air conditioners on the rooftops. And it really just stuck with me since then. I cut my teeth in the trades, so to speak. And so I've been there ever since. I came to Oregon in 2009. And at that time, I joined a journeyman program, got my official trade licenses, and went from there. I went to college. I went to business school after that, and really started thinking about operating instead of just being in the business. And so I started Stowe Mechanical in 2015, and I've been running and buying and selling companies ever since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I'm following your storyline, and you're talking about Googling things at the age of 12.
Right.
So that makes you fairly young.
Yeah, 30 years old.
30 years old,
yeah.
And an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Who's done many things, traveled, done many things, learned many aspects of the trade.
Right.
So did you went to trades school, and then you also went to college for business?
Yeah, correct. So I went to college for business, and then before that, I actually did mechanical engineering. I have an ABET mechanical engineering degree. In between starting my own business and working for mechanical contractors, I worked for the state of Oregon as their lead facility engineer. So I did that for about 2.5 years. And then that's when I decided to, I made great money there, great benefits. So I figured, why not? Let's just go ruin a good thing. And I went out on my own. And so at that time I decided, if I'm going to go out on my own and start a business, knowing the mechanical aspect is great, but knowing the business side of it is what I really needed to thrive. And so I went back, I did the Harvard Business School courses for business negotiation and business management. And through those programs, I really learned things that I feel have given me a really big advantage in running my own businesses, in buying and selling, and in negotiating the best deals and rates for my company. Because in the end of the day, my responsibility as an owner has always been providing a channel for my workers, whether it's getting the leads in the door, getting the phone to ring, but also having the process, having the payroll, having the accountability, the accounting, the legal, and everything else down to where they can feel that there's longevity in their jobs, that it's not a company that's going to be out of business tomorrow or next week or next month because all I ever knew was how to fix an air conditioner and not run a business.
Right. So your aspect was, I could do these things. Been doing them since I was 12. Went to school for them, but you had this larger long-term picture. You're like, well, I want this to last.
Right.
You didn't see yourself as a one-man show per se, though, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but you saw a greater picture.
Right. And just as you say, there's so many avenues an entrepreneur can take when they get in business. There are so many people I know who run, one truck, one man, one company, and they do so well. They make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
They treat their customers very well. And if they can maintain that level of good customer service, it's a win. For me, what I decided to do is when I first got into business, I told myself, I said, I'm going to have a brick and mortar. That was the first step. As I said, I'm not going to go into business until I can afford to get the first, few months rent on a brick and mortar and afford a van and a wrap and make sure that we have a presentation as a company, because I'm a brand guy. I'm all about building a brand that's going to be successful. And part of that is the image of having, a physical place where my customers can come and an office staff and a dispatcher and a coordinator. And so when I started Stowe Mechanical, that was the first order of business. Is we rented out a small little 800 square foot building. It wasn't anything crazy, but it got me my first big contracts just because I had that building. And I could have done well without it. But part of my goal plan to have an enterprise value included the mission of being presented as an enterprise. So you can do it either way, but the way that I chose, I think, is scalable. And it came with certain risk, but that's the trade-off. As being an entrepreneur, I think anybody out there listening knows that we are constantly taking risks in our field of work. Whether it's having an appliance business or whether it's having a janitorial business, whatever it is, there's a certain risk. There's insurance, there's liabilities, there's costs that go out, and you have to bring all that money in to pay for it all. So you have to have a plan. That was just my business plan.
Man, 25 years. Your website says 25 years of experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to jump back into that because we jumped right into the nitty gritty, and you were given all kinds of nuggets of information and knowledge. But you said you were in Washington at the time.
Right.
Tell us about the journey from Washington to being now here in San Diego, California.
Yeah, it was super simple. So I've been working internally in my company for a while with my marketing team on trying to make something that's replicatable, a business structure that we can replicate. And so my biggest challenge has been, when I started Stowe Mechanical, I started it where I lived. I started it where I knew people, where I worked for a company previously. And I feel that most pros out there have done the same. The way they started their businesses, that's just where they live. That's where their roots were. That's where they knew people. That's where they could get customers from the last place they worked. And so they started their business because they wanted to go out on their own, and people wanted them to. The harder thing is to go to a place where you've never been, where you don't know anybody. You don't know the geography. You don't know the layout of the land. You don't know the different
demographics.
Different demographics and the people, the cultural differences. Everything is so different. And start a business and do the same thing and have the same success rate, And so, but companies do it all the time. Big companies, Starbucks does it. They go everywhere, right? They know how to find, non-discretionary buyers. They know how to find people who will pay $6 for a cup of coffee, and it's replicatable, and they can do it anywhere. But they target the analytics. When I say do it anywhere, is that they target places that will bring them the most value. They have systems in place that are very complex that they can look at a map and say, where do we put this next Starbucks? Obviously they're not going to put a Starbucks in an area that can't afford a Starbucks. They're not going to put a Starbucks where there might be too much excessive competition, where it's hard for Starbucks to break through that market. But they're going to find maybe a place, it could be just a couple miles down the road, and they'll put the Starbucks there because all the systems say, check, 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 the Starbucks can go here, right? But those systems are what we don't know, us average people, right? Us small companies, the guys who started their company in their neighborhood, we didn't really have that. We don't have a big executive corporation that has, 10 people on staff to just study maps and things like that. So we want to make a replicatable process. When I started in Washington 3 years ago on this, I got a small team together and I said to them, I want to know how we can grow this to a national level. I want to know how we can start a brand, not just a Stowe Mechanical, my last namesake and mechanical, it's a very typical company name. I want to know how we can have an actual brand that has enterprise value. How do we do that? And they said, well, gee, how much do you like Stowe Mechanical? And I said, a lot. It's my namesake. And they said, it's not a brand.
Wow.
I said, can it become one? And they said, yeah, it's really expensive.
What a trust
to make that a brand.
Well, that is a lot of vulnerability.
Right.
To sit there with a circle of people that you trust.
Right.
To tell you the truth.
Right. Yeah. And when I hire people, it's one of the things I tell them. If they're going to be in my close circle, I say, I don't want yes men. I don't want people to follow me and say, all my ideas are great, because we can't grow from there. Because all of my ideas aren't great. I'm an entrepreneur, which means I fling out ideas left and right, and I come up with 10 different business plans every single day, and 10 of them every single day don't go anywhere. It's very few and far between that we get one that might have a spark, and then we research it, and even it's a dud. So by the time we get something going, it might be 500 ideas later. And so if I had people who just followed me and said all my ideas were great, I'd be in bankruptcy right now, and it wouldn't be a good picture. But I hired people who were much smarter than me and who understood marketing and who understood brands. And they said, you need to find a brand that can have a catalyst attached to it, that can make people follow it, that can make people, want to call you and can become a household name. So when I found Cracker Jack, part of that search is that we started the replicatable business model, and I picked California because I wanted to be in the Sunshine State, and I wanted to enjoy San Diego particularly. It's a very beautiful place. I mean, you guys can attest, and it's well worth the cost to live here. It's a mini paradise. I own property in Hawaii. And I don't have a house on the property, but I do put an RV and a camper there, and it's really beautiful. But you're locked into a small island,
right?
And here it's just very nice. You get a lot of the same amenities as you get in Hawaii. The palm trees are everywhere. The people are very nice and friendly. The culture is terrific. Just so many terrific people here. And so I thought, let's test it out here. This is where I want to be able to come. And so. I'd been going to the Hotel Del Coronado. I was staying over there in the beach villas. And so I was like, maybe I'll start a company right here in the middle of San Diego. So once we started doing research, we found out, being in Carlsbad is strategically a better place. We could have went to San Diego. We could have went in other areas, but we did all the analytics. We put the processes in play that we've been designing, and we put the information to work. That told us that, Carlsbad, San Diego, we looked at the industry trends, we looked at the market analysis, we looked at who our competitors were, and we decided to enter in to the HVAC industry. But then I found Cracker Jack, and Cracker Jack was an appliance company, and I thought, oh, appliances, let's rework the model for appliances, guys. And they're like, oh man, Brandon, what are you doing to us? So we reworked the model for appliances, and lo and behold, we found that it was way undersaturated in the market, way underrepresented. And we found that there was even more opportunity to kickstart appliances. And I said, well, that could be a catalyst to even funding the HVAC and the supporting businesses.
Right.
And so our investment went way down, just by finding Cracker Jack and appliances. So we bought the company. We also bought it because the brand value of Cracker Jack in the name was very high, in our opinion. And it's all subjective, but it's high because Cracker Jack is a real word, and it means exceptional. It means excellence. So if you look up Cracker Jack in the dictionary, it means to perform at an exceptionally high quality, of service. It means an excellent tradesman. It means something that is, very good or better than good. So it has a connotation to it that is very positive, And so I was like, wow, that's the brand right there. It's easy and it's old timey. It's kind of a word that's fallen out of popular use.
Right.
It fell out of popular use in the 50s. So it gives us an opportunity, right? It's not a hindrance. It's an opportunity for us to exploit that again, because there's not everybody using Cracker Jack.
Yeah, it has its traditional sound to it.
Right. Everybody wants to be, a 5 A1 or whatever,
A plus this,
A
yeah.
plus this or better mechanical, or, I even had a company best mechanical. I thought that was a great idea. My brand team was like, no, not a great idea. But everybody wants to do that. They want to be AAA service. They want to be, superhero, and so we wanted to go a different route. We wanted to stay clear of that because it's being saturated right now in the market. And we wanted to still find something that was going to give a huge impact to our consumers. And that's hard to do. So when we found Cracker Jack and they were like, look at the definition of this word. I was like, we can use the definition as an advertisement. We can just pop the definition up on a billboard by itself. We can pop up a billboard that says, now that's a Cracker Jack, and have a picture of something totally unrelated to appliance repair and just build the word to people. And then we can have a billboard that says, now there's a Cracker Jack, and have a picture of an appliance repair technician, in traditional 1940s, workwear, so all of our guys, they're branded in a way to where they wear these white shirts, but they wear suspenders, and they have, old fashioned pants, and they wear like the baguette type hats.
Nice.
And they've got a red rag out of the back pocket, and they just look very old fashioned, so we're kind of playing on that whole entire situation in our marketing. So it's brand building. And I think it's very super important in our company, in our culture, to have an exceptional brand. The brand that you carry cuts down everything else, cuts down your cost of advertising, cuts down your cost of acquisition, cuts down your cost of finding good talent, because people want to be associated with it. And when you create the culture around it, you double down on that. And so we started with the Cracker Jack brand, and then we, added the uniforms, and now we're adding the billboards, and now we're adding the gusto on it, so that when people see it, they have to search for it. When they look at our billboard, it says nothing about an appliance repair company. It says nothing about an HVAC company or home services. It just says Cracker Jack, really big, with a cool moniker of what a Cracker Jack is, and lets people absorb that. And then we come back around with retargeting and Facebook ads and Google ads and everything else and pick up those customers, because then they have it in their mind, and it comes back and it re-engages them. So they're like, oh, I know what Cracker Jack means. This is Cracker Jack appliance. That means they're exceptional.
Right.
But these are exceptional repairmen. And so we put that in our slogan. We are exceptional appliance repair. We are exceptional HVAC repair. Which is just another synonym for the word. So that's how we kind of came up with our brand, and it was here in San Diego. So it worked out really well for us. So the journey from there to here was really, at first, my mischief of testing a replicatable system, and then really falling in love with a brand and saying, yes, let's do it. And we've been here now for, since August, building this system up, and it's already started paying back,
Wow.
very quickly.
And you also are very diversified when it comes to businesses.
That's right.
Yeah. Speak to us about that.
Yeah. So, part of our parent corporation, so I own Stowe Enterprises, and that enterprise group has a few Dairy Queens in it. We work with another partner group called Royal Punab, and they own 50 Dairy Queens. And we own 7 Dairy Queens out of that, and we're actually selling most of those. But in that group, we also own a lot of real estate. We have 7 properties in Seattle, and then we have 3 properties here in San Diego. And then on top of that, we own a mechanical company in Washington called Thermal Tech Refrigeration. We own a mechanical company called Best Mechanical, which is small residential. And then here in San Diego, our partners are iDream Capital. iDream Capital is a group that is in the midst of an acquisition of a tower contractor in Louisiana and Mississippi. It's a 2-state contractor. It's a first-tier Verizon telecommunications tower builder, and so that's a $20 million company that's being worked to be acquired, and we should finish that up this week. So I'm proud to say that we're going to have that under our flagship of brands, and then we're going to expand that into Texas very shortly after. And then we have the Cracker Jack, and Cracker Jack started as Cracker Jack Repair. It was appliance repair. We've turned that into Cracker Jack Home Services. Cracker Jack Home Services will house, Cracker Jack Appliance Repair, Cracker Jack HVAC, Cracker Jack Electrical, Cracker Jack Plumbing, home remodelers. We're thinking about adding house cleaning, janitorial services, just any kind of trade. So Crackerjack is going to be a total home services solution that you can call. The branches will be partly separated, and then the end goal that we're finalizing right now is being able to franchise the brand. Wow. So you can franchise just a Crackerjack HVAC company, for instance. You can do Crackerjack Air, and so if you wanted to run an HVAC company and you wanted to franchise, join a franchising partner, you could be a Crackerjack Air provider. If you wanted to be a plumbing company, now if you wanted more than one or two, you could add them under the services umbrella. And so, it's going to be pretty multifaceted, and we hope that that's a nationwide endeavor over this next 2 or 3 years to get it out. And it'll be kind of comparable to like the 1 hour heatings of the nation. And so, it's a big goal. It's a huge undertaking on our side, but that was the first part of our systems, is being able to replicate the business model, having processes that are scalable. And if we have that, then we should be able to put that anywhere and look on maps and help people who want to start a business start it in a smarter and more strategic way. So that'll be some solutions that we'll be providing to people across the map here, hopefully by next year.
Man, that's some exciting stuff. Yeah. I don't know how you balance all that, my friend, but young and hungry.
A struggle. Yeah.
Hungry, going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you so much for your time. But before we let you go, Brandon, what would be one piece of advice you would give to our pros out there, or to young entrepreneurs even?
Yeah, I would say don't give up. One of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur is you constantly feel like you're treading water. You constantly get into spots where you're like, man, is this going to be it? Is this going to be the hard time that they were telling me about? And, the key to success is failing over and over and over and over and over again, and being able to keep getting back up and trying things. Out of the few things I mentioned, it may seem like a lot, but I've tried 10 times more than that. I've done all of these things and failed at them, lots of times. Best Mechanical didn't take off the way that we thought it would. It treaded water. And Thermaltech Refrigeration, it did the same. And so, Crackerjack has grown way faster than both of them. Stowe Mechanical, my first endeavor, grew way faster than both of them. So even after I already had a success, the rest of it was failure. And so I had to re-strategize each time, and I had to really concentrate on, okay, what am I doing wrong, and how do I make it right? A lot of that's throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Right.
There's no easy path for an entrepreneur. The one thing that I can say is that if you get comfortable with failure and you continue to reapply yourself, then success is most likely just around the corner. It's not for everybody. If you can't be that one person shop that never takes a vacation, that's the first step. Often that is the first step. You don't just start and have an enterprise and have 20 people running around an office saying, what can we do for you? It often starts with the long nights. It starts with the obligating your time and your money and your finances, and tying your personal credit and tying your life savings and everything else to this wild idea that I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to have some success. If that's what you want and you really are feeling it, I would never bar anybody from taking that route. But when you fail the first time, if you really want that success, you have to get up and keep going. You can't give up. And so, the one thing I would tell any of the owners that are watching this, any of the people that are in that position, especially people who are new to the House Call Pro platform, or any CRM platform, when you first get into the platform, a lot of people get into it and they think, this is going to solve all my problems. I'm going to have a successful business tomorrow now because I can manage things. The other parts of the business are still there. So you have to create a process to control all of it. You still have to, this software enables you to connect with your customers and get a workflow done, but you still have to provide the service. You still have to make the steps in the middle. You still have to, provide the exceptional quality that makes them want to write the review. It's going to ask them for a review, but you still have to make them want to give you a review. It's going to give them a bill, but you have to make them want to pay that bill. It's going to schedule them, but you have to make sure you're there on time. So the software is great, but the hustle has to still be there. The need to thrive has to still be there. The hunger of wanting the success and needing to achieve it has to still be there. The moment that drops off, the software doesn't matter anymore. It's useless, you know? And so if you're listening to this and you really want to get to that next step, you know, you got to start with yourself. You got to be consistent. You got to have a consistent schedule. You have to have a consistent process, and you have to do it day in and day out without fail, you know, because that's the only way you can create that same consistency that our customers and our consumer market yearns for and desires and won't accept anything less for these days. You know, they want a company that when they call the first time, it's the same as when they call the second time. It's the same type of answering. It's the same type of quality technician that comes out. You know, it's the same 5-star service every time. It can't be different. You can't waver from that. You have to have a process, you know, so start with not failing and then, or getting comfortable with failing, and then, you know, follow it up by being consistent. And I think anybody will do really well. You know, there's tons of work out there. You know, I mean, our trade industries are growing tremendously. HVAC's growing at 20% per year. Many of our industries, appliances growing, you know, appliances are becoming, you know, more, they're cheaper made, you know, so they fail more often, you know, so the need for appliance repair is high, you know, but our costs have to be managed well because appliances are also cheaper, you know, so we have to be strategic with that. You know, HVAC is growing tremendously. You know, new installs are more expensive than ever. Financing, it makes it easier for the consumer to have cleaner air than they've ever had. You know, financing is, I mean, we're not even going to get to touch on that today, but, you know, look into financing, you know, make sure your company can offer it. Make sure your company has the means to provide every solution a customer wants to ask for, you know, especially if you're an HVAC company and you're doing those larger projects. If you're not financing, you need to be financing, and go from there. You'll grow quick.
Thanks for catching this episode of the Pro Talk podcast. Make sure to subscribe to get notified when future episodes come out. And if you're listening on an iPhone, please leave a quick review on the Apple Podcast app. Watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe below.